Have you ever felt stuck in circumstances that seem impossible to overcome? Maybe you look at your dreams and think, that's not for me. I don't have the resources, the education, or the necessary connections. If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. But what many don't realize is that the key to achieving your dreams isn't in the external world, but within you. Yes, within your own mind. So, if you're ready to unlock your limitless potential and start living the life of your dreams, keep watching, because in the next few minutes, you'll discover how a simple shift in your mindset can completely transform your reality. Get ready to be amazed and inspired by the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who used this power to go from a small village in Austria to the bright lights of Hollywood. Arnold Schwarzenegger's story. I was born in Thal, a small village in Austria, in 1947. My family was humble, and we lived in a simple house with few resources. My father, Gustav, was a local police officer, strict and authoritarian. He had clear expectations for me and my older brother, Meinhard. He wanted us to follow in his footsteps and become police officers as well. My mother, Aurelia, was a loving homemaker who took care of us and tried to soften the harshness of my father. From an early age, I felt destined for something bigger, even though I didn't know exactly what. There was a restlessness inside me, a desire to prove my worth and achieve something extraordinary. But in my village, surrounded by mountains and the limited mindset of the people, these dreams seemed impossible. My childhood wasn't easy. We lived in post-war Austria, still recovering from the trauma and poverty brought by the conflict. My father, who had served in the Nazi army during the war, was a severe man and sometimes violent. He drank a lot and often took out his frustrations on me and my brother. I remember one time when I was about 10 years old, my father came home drunk and started yelling at me because I hadn't tidied up my things properly. He hit me so hard that I fell to the floor. At that moment, something changed inside me. I decided that I would never be a victim again, that I would never allow anyone to have that power over me. It was around this time that I began to take an interest in sports. I saw sports as a way to strengthen my body and mind, to gain control over my life. I started playing soccer and athletics, and discovered I had a natural talent for competition. But my true passion, the one that would change the course of my life forever, I discovered a few years later. I was about 14 years old when I first saw a bodybuilding magazine. Those men with sculpted bodies looked like gods to me. They radiated strength, confidence, power. Something inside me was awakened. I knew at that moment that this is what I wanted to be. But there was a problem. In Austria at that time, bodybuilding was practically unknown. There were no gyms, no equipment, no instructors, and certainly no support from my family. My father thought the idea was absurd and wanted me to focus on becoming a police officer like him. But I couldn't ignore that voice inside me that said I was capable of more. So I started training on my own, in whatever way I could. I improvised weights with rocks and tree branches, did push-ups and squats until exhaustion. I trained in the basement of our house, late at night when everyone else was asleep. It was my moment to connect with myself, to cultivate my inner strength. And it was in this solitary process that I began to understand the true power of the mind. I had no one to guide me, no one to motivate me. Everything depended on me, my discipline, my willpower. And I discovered that when I focused my mind on a goal, when I visualized clearly where I wanted to go, my body followed. Every day, I practiced visualization. Before going to sleep, I closed my eyes and saw myself winning Mr. Universe, with the perfect body I so desired. I felt the emotion of being on that stage, being applauded, recognized. I imagined every detail, from the texture of my skin to the shine of the trophy in my hands. And something incredible started to happen. My body began to change, to mold itself according to the image in my mind. My muscles grew, my strength increased. It was as if my mind was sending an order to my body, and my body was obeying. Of course, it wasn't an easy or quick process. There were many moments of doubt, many days when I wanted to give up. But in those moments, I always returned to my visualization. I remembered my dream, the life I wanted to create. And that gave me the strength to keep going. My first major victory came at 18 when I won the Junior Mr. Europe bodybuilding contest. It was a moment of validation, proof that my efforts were paying off. But I knew it was only the beginning. In the following years, I dedicated myself body and soul to bodybuilding. I trained for hours every day, followed a strict diet, studied everything I could about human physiology. And I kept visualizing, always visualizing. I saw myself winning Mr. Universe, conquering America, becoming a legend in the sport. And then, in 1967, it happened. At 20 years old, I became the youngest Mr. Universe in history. It was a moment of triumph, the realization of a dream that once seemed impossible. But for me, it was just a step in a much larger life. Because I had another dream, one that had started forming in my mind since I saw my idol Reg Park in the movies. I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to conquer Hollywood, and I knew I could use the same power of visualization to make that dream a reality. So, with just a suitcase and a handful of dollars in my pocket, I left for the United States. It wasn't easy at first. I barely spoke English, knew no one, had no connections, but I had my mind, and in it, I was already a success. Every day, I visualized my career in the movies. I saw myself starring in major films, being directed by the best directors, winning an Oscar. I felt the excitement of being on the red carpet, of seeing my name in the credits, and I acted as if it was already real. I started by taking small roles, often being the muscle guy. But I didn't care. To me, every role was an opportunity to learn, to grow, to get closer to my dream. And I kept visualizing, kept believing. The big break came with Conan the Barbarian in 1982. That film put me on the map, established me as an action star, and then The Terminator came in 1984 and my career exploded. Suddenly, I was one of the highest paid and most recognized actors in Hollywood. But I didn't stop there, because I had another dream. One that might seem even more impossible for an Austrian immigrant with a strong accent and a hard-to-pronounce name. I wanted to enter politics. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives on an even bigger scale. And once again, I used the power of visualization. During my campaign for governor of California, I saw myself giving speeches, making tough decisions, leading the state. I felt the responsibility of the office, the gratitude of being able to serve people. And I acted as if victory was already certain. And then in 2003, the impossible happened. I became the 38th governor of California, a state with an economy bigger than most countries. It was a moment of achievement, proof of the limitless power of the human mind. Throughout my life, from the small village of Thal to the United States, from the bodybuilding stages to the film sets and the governor's office, what guided me was the power of visualization. This ability to clearly see where I wanted to go, to feel the emotion of victory even before I reached it, was my greatest asset. And what I learned is that this isn't a special gift. It's not something reserved for just a few chosen ones. It's a skill that we all possess, an innate force of the human mind. What sets us apart is whether we choose to cultivate it or not. Because the truth is, life is full of obstacles, full of people who will tell you that you can't, full of circumstances that will seem insurmountable. But when you have a clear picture of your dream, when you can feel it with every fiber of your being, nothing can stop you. Of course, visualization alone isn't enough. It needs to be combined with consistent action, with hard work, with perseverance. But it is the fuel that moves you, the compass that guides you. It gives you the strength to keep going when everything seems lost, the faith to believe when no one else believes. And the most amazing thing is that the more you practice visualization, the more it becomes your reality. As if you're magnetizing your dream, attracting the right people and opportunities to make it real. Suddenly, the entire universe seems to conspire in your favor.